And we are going to be live. Welcome back, folks, to BricsCAD Unplugged, Season 2, Episode 6. Today's topic is Wielding Blade with Steve Johnson. As you can see, we have a mystery guest, though, behind the mask. But real fast, for people who don't know what Blade is BricsCAD's LISP, Advanced Environment, for development environment. Sorry, I got that a little long. I got a cold.
Tongue twister.
Yes. Say it 20 times. But with that, I'm Matt Olding, and with my colleague Vince.
Hi, I'm Vince with the sales team on the Bricks side, and also I do a little bit of technical. And we have our special guest below us, Steve. He's been here before. I love the mask. You look like an alien. So I do want to say a couple things real quickly. When we were in London, I was able to sit in on the Blade session that both Steve and Torsten did, and it was a really good session. We tried to record it, and I think the recording didn't work out well. So I thought it would be really great to have Steve come back and talk more about Blade, because I think it's there's a lot of stuff that we can cover in terms of development. Yeah. We could go all day. This is like my favorite subject, but we could go all day talking about some of the features that are in Blade. And so I think what we'll do is, for the next couple weeks, couple months, we're going to have a couple sessions on Blade. And so today will be more of an introduction, but we'll try to cover a lot of those subjects. But with Steve Johnson, we're happy to have him back. We've had him here before. He's a regular guest now.
And big time kudos. Yeah, because let people know, Steve is in Perth, Australia. It's 11. It's 11 o'clock your time, right, at night? Yeah.
It's late.
Yeah, it's late. And so thank you, Steve, for joining us from Perth and everything. So I just want the audience to know that. Continue on.
Oh, go ahead. Steve does have his blog site. I'd like him to talk about that a little bit. But also, really, what can you do to show us sort of an introduction to Blade and describe sort of doing and sort of like an intro to.
Okay. Lots of people will be familiar with my blog, Blog Nauseum. Just type it in. There's lots of stuff in there about BricsCAD these days. Was an AutoCAD blog once, but there's still AutoCAD stuff on there, and there's more and more BricsCAD stuff as it's kind of taking things over.
Migrating.
All right, this Blade thing. What is it, and why does it matter? Well, it's first of all, LISP matters to CAD users, and has done for 25, 30 years. Autodesk wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Auto LISP being added to AutoCAD back in the 80s. That was really the killer that killed the opposition, as it then was. And it's just a great programming language that is suitable for the job. It has a whole host of advantages, but if you're a CAD manager or a power user, the huge advantage to using LISP is it allows you to do all sorts of stuff that makes your users efficient, or makes yourself efficient, and it's very low maintenance. So stuff that's written 25 years ago will still work, and
it's good to know.
It's you can write code very efficiently. The small amount of code will do a lot of stuff, and there's lots of people out there that can use LISP, and there's lots of samples out there, lots of things people can do with it. And in order for any application that wants to supplant AutoCAD to be taken seriously, it has to have a really good LISP. And BricsCAD has had a really good LISP for years, but one thing it didn't have is it didn't have a development environment. And the AutoCAD equivalent is called VLIDE, Visual Lisp Integrated Development Environment.
That's a mouthful too.
I think our name is much better.
I love the Blade name. It's so much better.
The BricsCAD name. I say our name because I had a hand in naming it,
and Steve, the connection with you with the mask and the blade on, I'm going to have to say this. Let people know that Steve is actually a fencer, and so he fences, and he's with one of the top in the world. But in Australia, he's actually in the top in Australia for his age group, and that's how the name Blade came about, because of Steve fencing and everything. So I just want to give the audience that little caveat. I think it's a nice one.
In London, we got a demonstration. He charged across the stage with his saber. It was excellent. It was awesome.
Yeah. But the video is not great. Maybe I'll see if I can just put what's up there on there. You can't really necessarily see what's being shown on the screen that well, but we can put that, what we have, we can put up there. So I'll see if I can make that available, at least through my blog.
And we're going to do some more live sessions like this also too.
Absolutely.
On Unplugged. So
anyway, back before we run out of time, I guess. Back to why Blade matters. So there wasn't this development environment, which meant that developing Lisp stuff for BricsCAD, you could use any old editor, of course, because Lisp code is just a text file. But if you wanted to have a debugging session within BricsCAD, you couldn't do it. So you had to develop in AutoCAD, and then it would work in BricsCAD. But it's not quite the same thing. So the development environment in AutoCAD is very old. It dates from the previous century, and very little has happened to it since.
If anything, I don't think anything.
I don't even know how do you properly pronounce it.
Blide, 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 Vilidi. I don't know anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's obsolete. Okay.
Yes.
There are still occasions you may need to use it, but I don't unless I really have to. So I do my AutoCAD development in Blade under BricsCAD, not in AutoCAD. And you might do a paranoia check just running it in AutoCAD to make sure it works in both, but it will.
Right.
So with that, Steve, let's show it off. Can you want to bring it up and share your desktop and show us the UI and give us a little sample?
Yes, sure. I'll share my screen and show you what the different parts of the interface does. What's that image doing here?
Oh, look at that. An earthquake happened.
I love it.
Okay, that's better. So here is Blade. Here is the window. You can resize it any size you like. So similar to Blade, it has the main editor window here, but there's a lot of other stuff that you don't get in the older product. And one thing that you notice straight away is it has this document tab interface. Also, over on the left-hand side, this left pane, it's very useful. You can navigate around your files and your code very easily with this. So it handily groups them into your folders. You can close your folders down. So if you've got a big folder with 50 Lisp files in, it's not taking up all your space. And you can navigate using this. So if I want to go to this file here, I just double click on it and it goes to it. So even if your tabs don't all fit on, if you have 50 or 100 LISP files open, you still can navigate easily using this this pane on the left here. Also very handy for navigation is that the pane is actually has 3 tabs to it, and the functions tab shows you the functions in this particular file. And if I change to a different file, it shows you the structure of the of the files there. Now, some code gets very complex, and you have functions within functions within functions, so nested functions. And in fact, this function here is 8 levels deep. This little all alpha. So if I double click on that, it takes me straight to the definition of all alpha here, and that's bidirectional. So if I'm somewhere else in the code and I put my cursor here, then it shows me on the left-hand side here exactly where I am. So this is at the moment it's displayed in the order that it appears that it's defined in the file, but you can also sort it. If we right-click on things here, we can sort by name or put things back by the original sequence. So you can show things alphabetical order if you like. And the other tab on the left here is the resources tab. And that shows, for example, whatever commands you have defined, wherever you're loading other bits of LISP, and wherever you're using the command function to call AutoCAD commands or BricsCAD commands, where you're setting system variables, where you're loading dialogues, that sort of thing. So, and again, you can use this for navigating. So, oh yeah, where am I saving the drawing? Okay, well, I'll click here. Here's the bit of code where I'm saving the drawing.
Nice.
So really handy, and you can see it by the line numbers on the editor window here. These are all optional. You can turn all this stuff on and off. It's very configurable. But you can see on the line numbers here that this is around line 2000, and that's halfway through the file. So this is a fairly large file and would be difficult to navigate and find exactly what you want without these facilities. So you'd be constantly doing searches and that kind of thing. So this tab over here is very useful. You can see there's a little status line here. So this is line 2009 of 4,487, and the column number and how many characters you have and so on. So that's one aspect of it, the interface. The panes down the bottom here have local variables, and you have watches. There's actually 3 lots of watches here. So if you want to keep an eye on what's happening with certain variables as the program is running, you can have them listed in the watch window here. But there's 3 watch windows. So if you're doing different stuff, you can have different sets of variables. What's really nice is that you don't have to set up these watches to keep an eye on your variables, because it's done automatically for you in a lot of cases. So if I use this bit of Lisp code here, and I'll just start a debug session. So this is something that will show properly in a later session, so you can see exactly the process that we're going through here. But what I've done here is started a debugging session, and I've set it up to do what's called auto break, which is a nice feature where you just run the code and it will automatically start debugging at the first point where the code is executing. So you don't have to actually place any breakpoints in the code. It just kind of does it automatically with this auto break facility. Again, it's optional like everything else.
Nice.
So what I'm going to do is actually run the run my little command here. And you can see it's doing work for me automatically. So I've typed the first 3 characters, and it's come up with the options here. I've typed it using 2 different sorts of case, which is why it's showing me 2 different things in here. But I just press enter and it types that in for me. And I go enter. Now, what's happened here is that it's now running my Lisp code, and it stopped at a breakpoint that I placed in here earlier. And automatically, without me doing anything, we have a list of all the variables here and their values.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at the moment, there's not much has happened. But if I just step over a bit and do a few, let it do a few things, and now have a look at the values, you can see that the values are you're seeing them dynamically change here. And let's do a bit more stuff. Whoop, and
You're okay. Well, Vince.
Yeah, I cancelled it. I'm running this in the wrong file. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I was going to say, if Vince, I think Vince had something to say also too, or to show about what you've learned about different, setting up your user interface. Vince, do you want to share your real fast?
Yeah, I can do that. I think when I sat through this session in London, I was really impressed with just the ability. What Steve is showing is a little complex in terms of he's been doing this a while, and for those of us that have been doing this a while, it's easy to kind of see the value of being able to see your variables, the value of those variables, what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on here that just isn't in a standard editor. And what I did is, as I left London, I got really excited about Blade, and so I went and on the plane back, I launched into it and started setting up the colors and the preferences to look more like what I was used to.
And Vince, while you're speaking, I'll just show people exactly what.
If you go into preferences, you can set up everything about the interface. You can pretty much customize. And so I did. Once we can jump back over, I can show it too as well. But just being able to set that up was really key. But the difference between using Blade or some other editor is the fact that you're getting so much feedback. You can see what's going on. And for those people that are new to wanting to get into Lisp, it's going to be very helpful for you to be able to look at what are these variables, what are the values of these variables, and how are they going on as you're doing stuff. So what I did, I got a really colorful background, of course, but these colors all mean something to me. Now, what I did notice was, and I'll show them preferences, on the plane flying back, there's something, I used Notepad++ for many years, and something really cool in Notepad++, not easy for me to say, is that whenever I would highlight a variable or a word or anything it basically will highlight and show me where that word is everywhere else. And so I said, oh man, I'm really missing this. I sent an email while I was on the plane flying back to the States, and I want to say it almost seemed like this got fixed and added to the product before I landed. If you go to preferences under selection highlighting, you can turn this on where it says highlight all matches. So what that means is if I just highlight any variable and I double click on it, let's try this one. Double click on it. Easy for me to do while I'm talking, right? There it is. So it'll highlight and show me where that variable is. So some of the little tips and things that you're able to do in Blade are just amazing. If you've been doing this for a while and you have to try this environment, I would highly encourage you to do that.
Well, I'm going to ask you both a question, since I've been wrote any Lisp routine in probably over 15 years, but I know they all still work. The ones I did on AutoCAD still work in BricsCAD and vice versa. What's your guys' feelings just about using Blade versus what Autodesk offers or AutoCAD offers? Just a overall comparison. Vince, you want to start?
Well, if you're starting, this is a great environment because you're getting so much more feedback. And it's so much more efficient. It's faster. You know, I don't want to pick on the other product, but you know, I did have lots of issues with crashes, lockups, or things that weren't happening. But you know, that code has. I don't think that product has been updated in a couple of decades. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage you, if you're just getting into it, you can start out very simplistic and do some really simple things, and you can get more and more complicated. And then, you know, this tool really can help you organize and sort and find things. I mean, just some of the stuff that Steve was showing is key, just to being able to easily write code.
Yeah. Do I have time to show some of the new features that came with version 19?
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to ask, Steve. Yeah, if you can highlight some of the new features, it'd be great in version 19.
Okay. From a user interface point of view, one thing that was added was the ability to have floating windows. So that's normal in VLIDE, but where's it gone? Never mind. I'll use the task key because I've forgotten where it is in the menu. But
That's
There it is.
yeah. If you're using keystrokes, then you can quickly toggle between the two like that. And the really clever thing about this, which I can't show you while sharing, but if I drag this, I can place it over these parts, but I can actually move it right off the screen. You can't see that, but when you do move it completely off the screen, that window, and you'll have to take my word for it, that window has got its own menu and toolbars.
So if I'm running, Steve, if I have two monitors like I do right now, I could put that on one monitor and have the editor on the other one and see the comparisons and all that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's other tools for doing that. But what's really nice about you can just it's very clever in that you drag the window back here and it's got no menu, no toolbars on it, and you drag it off and put it on the second screen, and then to save you having to go right over to your second screen and pick something, the buttons are right there, right next to your code. So that's a really nice feature. There's in the preferences that we were mentioning before, there's now a keyboard tab here, so you can change the keystrokes to pretty much anything you like. And this is just in the file category, but for example, in the editing area here, you can change how you delete. For example, I'm used to Control Y to delete a file. It dates back to WordStar before AutoCAD.
Yeah.
Control Y, but it's in my muscle memory, so I want to be able to hit Control Y and delete a file, so delete a line. So I can do that. I can change that stuff. So that's really nice feature. And again, you save that in your preferences, just like Vince showed you with the text colors and so on. You just and you can save and export these the configuration files as well and give them to other people, which is something I actually did on my blog. I did a how to put your blade back to Glide colors example, and I put the file on there so people could download that and change it if that's what they wanted to do. A really nice feature that's in here is the inspector dialog. So there's a LISP function called inspector, and you can call it with arguments, but if you just call it with nothing and select an entity, and it's put it on the other screen, so I'll just drag it over here. So it brings up one of these inspector dialogues, and these are modeless dialogues, and you can have as many of them as you like. You don't have just the one. And this shows you the structure of in this case an entity, but you can also use it for layer tables and dictionaries and all sorts of stuff. So it's really good for looking at what data you have within a drawing, whether it's drawing object or not. So, for example, this is a 3D solid, and if I scroll down here, you can see all the DXF codes for it, and you can actually get an idea of what's going on, how this ASYS solid has been constructed with shells and faces and loops and plane surfaces and so on. And so this is very useful for a power user or CAD manager that's trying to fix somebody's broken drawing. They can get an idea of what's going on, what's triggering AutoCAD to crash, for example. One reason that I've said that every AutoCAD CAD manager should have a copy of BricsCAD is that it has not only the ability to open drawings that AutoCAD crashes on to allow you to fix them, but also it has these diagnostic tools that allow you to see how the drawing is structured and get to the root of whatever the problem happens to be.
And this is like EntGet on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interactive too. So for example, let's find an entity name. If I double click on this entity name, the 330 is actually the model space block, but it could be a normal block. But it's block record and model space has these two 3D solids in it. And again, you can just burrow down and you double click on that, and that could be a different 3D solid which has its own. So it shows you pretty much the same data in three different formats. So you've got the traditional LISP data there. You have the DXF codes, and you have the COM properties. So if you're doing your ActiveX programming, then this is the format that you might be used to seeing. So the moment of inertia, for example, I did double click on that. That gives us safe array, that we can find out that the moment of inertia is this list here, and so on. So yeah, it's really nice diagnostic tool just for drawings. Not don't have to be a gun LISP programmer to find that useful. Something I probably don't have time to show you, but is probably worth a half-hour session in its own right, is the thing that's hiding underneath this check syntax and variables button. Again, it's gone on the other screen by default. But this will analyze your code, and it will highlight any errors in the code and give you warnings and hints. I will find a piece of code where it will actually give us some warnings. So it was doing a little bit of an analysis there. We had to wait for nearly 2 seconds, and it goes through and shows you for different function definitions. For example, this one, it says it's got 0 errors and 28 warnings and no hints. And if we look down in this table here, it tells us where the problem is, what the line number is, and what the symbol is, and exactly what the problem is. So in this case, it's just the fact that I've defined these functions externally in a different file that's not loaded. So it's just warning me about that. So if I gave somebody this LISP file on its own, it would fail because these functions aren't defined. So that's a warning. It's not going to be a problem because they will always have that file. In here, we've got it highlighted in red. And the problem we've got here is system variable does not exist. So over here, I have a function call with too few arguments in the function call, that kind of thing. So if you've got errors in your code, then this will help you find them and work out exactly what's going on without having to do the trial and error issues. So yeah, I could easily spend half an hour demonstrating that. And that is a really useful tool.
And with that, Steve, yeah, we're running out of time though, but folks, to let you know, we are going to have definitely 2 more sessions with Steve and going over Blade, but maybe 3, to be determined right now, but we're probably going to come out with those in the beginning of February time frame and everything. So lots of stuff to talk about with Blade and review on Blade, and especially if you have your old LISP routines, you write new ones, or if you're new into LISP and you want to know more, definitely tune in with in the future here in the coming February timeframe. But with that, you guys, Vince, do you want to just summarize real fast what we've seen today?
Well, I mean, I would just say definitely. Well, if you're a CAD manager, I've seen a lot of companies that have literally thousands of LISP routines that have been developed over the years, and then they either lose their CAD manager or a new CAD manager comes in. The tools that Steve was showing today, if you know how to do some of this stuff, will really help streamline how you can find errors, issues, problems, review code to make sure it works. If you're new, there's a lot of tools in there that help you. We just scratched the surface, and I know some of it may look a little bit daunting, but the reality is once you get used to that environment and seeing it, it's really hard to go back to an editor that doesn't have any of these bells and whistles and the ability to look at this information. So definitely check out Steve's blog site, his blog posts. Make sure you keep up with what we're doing. There's going to be lots of changes. Blade it's not done, it's not finished. It continues to improve. Just like I said, there was
This
just
is my
even
new
little things.
Blade.
If you have Lisp, you need Blade. Absolutely,
Yeah.
I would. And like Steve said, oftentimes he does his development there and takes it back to AutoCAD because it's just a more convenient, more efficient way to do some of that stuff. So make sure you, if you haven't, download a demo of V19. That's our current version, and Blade is in it, and Blade is actually in the Classic, Pro, and in Platinum, so it's available.
Yeah, and then also too, like us on Facebook and YouTube. We are taking the next 2 weeks off over the holidays for Christmas and New Year's. Yeah, so we'll be back with BricsCAD live on Facebook January 9th, Wednesday. And Steve, you have one more thing to say?
One more thing. Being here in Australia, I just want to plug. There's the Australasia BricsCAD conference, which is in Brisbane in March the 19th, and next year, obviously.
I'd love to go to that.
And I bet you would. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that. I think that's being advertised on Upfront eZine.
Yeah.
There's some
very cool.
But I'll put something on my own blog about that. Now this is something we did. The resellers in Australasia, Australia and New Zealand did last year. They actually did a road show around Australia, and at the same time, Autodesk didn't do that. There used to be an Autodesk Australia, Autodesk University Australia. And in 2018, that was cancelled due to lack of interest. So,
well, there's a new product on the town, or a better.
We're
product.
interested.
Yeah, we're interested though. Okay, you guys, we got to get going because we went way over our time though. But Steve, thank you very much for staying up late and helping us out. And yes, folks, we're going to have more Steve and Blade in the future on our show. And with that, you guys say goodbye. And we'll see you guys January 9th.
Take care.
Take care. Okay, you guys, we are